But speaking of visuals, like, what do you think of what the people were wearing? What's any of the particular
I saw a
things
lot of
that was
memes about
striking?
millennial.
Yeah.
The hat, the hamburger.
Some people say Undertaker, some people say hamburger.
Do you see when Trump tried to kiss her?
Yeah, he couldn't
couldn't.
reach because of the hat, the rim of the hat. And people are saying that that's how bad their relationship is, that she will wear a hat so that
keep
Trump
him
can kiss her.
Aside from Yalabat, we've also got another podcast. It's called Tell You First. And every episode, Terence and I dive into fascinating topics in history, pop culture, and science that you never knew you needed to know, all with a touch of comedy. We're coming to the end of the season pretty soon, and we've talked about some pretty wild topics. Here's a snippet from a recent episode. What time is it really? Terence, do you know how many times our time zone in Singapore has been changed over the years?
Oh, it's more of a political thing, right? It's kind of like how the politicians like to say, oh, my mother sang 3 different national anthems growing up in Singapore, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But time zone, I guess, is similar, right?
Yeah. So how many times do you think it has changed?
Twice, maybe?
No, 6 times. With the most recent time change happening in 1981, when Malaysia wanted to change the timing of Peninsular Malaysia, which is West Malaysia, to match East Malaysia.
Okay.
So Malaya went from GMT plus 7.5 hours to GMT plus 8. But Singapore was still GMT plus 7.5 hours.
I see.
And it happened at the end of 1981 when Mahathir came down to Singapore, met Lee Kuan Yew with his delegation to discuss some stuff, one of which was the time.
Oh, wow.
So between the two of them, who do you think wanted to agree on the consistent time?
Lee Kuan Yew?
No, man. It was Mahathir. In fact, Lee Kuan Yew wasn't the keenest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, there's a Straits Times article from back then with this anecdote where Mahathir said he bought a digital watch and he realized that Malaya didn't sit within one of the time zones because apparently you can only change it by the hour. So he said, you know what, let's all move to GMT plus 8, and Lee Kuan Yew said, okay.
Wow, that's amazing.
If you like that, check out Tell You First on the Me Listen app, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
So, we are in a new dawn.
Yeah.
Feel any different or not?
You're talking about what? The fact that we just heard the news that the Electoral Boundaries Committee has been convened in Singapore.
No,
that's the new dawn.
No, that's like the part of the new dawn.
The precursor to
the new dawn would be the new dawn that we saw on Monday.
You mean Trump's
presidency?
Maybe not dawn. Maybe approaching sunset.
Dawn feels like dawn for one half of America and sunset for the other half.
Maybe more than half of America.
More than half.
But in Singapore, also probably more than half in Singapore.
As shown by a recent survey.
True.
Right. But I mean, that's something we will dive into.
Correct.
But what was the little other thing you mentioned, Terence?
Lawrence Wong has convened the Electoral Boundaries Review Committee, EBRC.
EBRC, yeah.
So,
like minutes before we started recording, right?
Correct. And usually this means that they convene and then in 1 or 2 months, they'll release a report. And usually after that, it's, at least 1-2 months, then it's election already. So the wheels are turning.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of speculation, right? When will the next election be? It has to be by November. Chances are it'll be during the school holidays.
Yeah.
So it was either March, May, June, or September. But then now, I guess March is going to be tough, right?
No, I think
based on his historical trends of how long it typically takes the EBRC to deliver the report.
Yeah, I would say at least 3.5 months after the EBRC is convened.
To deliver the report.
No. To deliver a report could be 1.5 to 2 months. And after that, another 1.5 to 2 months. So,
and we say that because it's just yesterday we were looking at the timelines of the past few elections, right?
We looked at the timelines of when each election happened after the EBRC was convened. Of course, taking away 2020 as an anomaly because that was COVID, right? But 2015, 2011, 2006 gives you a certain idea of when this election might happen. But again, everything is just speculation, right? Nobody knows except Mr. Wong himself.
Some of this is a new PM also. The first, it's almost like the next generation PM.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll do things differently, you never know.
But then again, you look at what is happening in the US with the inauguration and all. There's quite specific, ceremonial and, certain timelines that they need to follow as well, certain conventions, even in the way the inauguration happened, which we will talk about.
Yeah.
But there are certain norms that he can't rock the boat that much or so, right? But I don't know what are the norms or so, right?
Yeah. But interesting, lah. Like for the longest time, right, we've heard elections. Now this is the first step, like what you say, the wheels.
Officially.
The wheels are turning.
Correct.
Exciting times, man. Yeah. Exciting times.
But also, aside from that, Chinese New Year also like really coming up. I went to Chinatown, like yesterday for the first time. Did the whole walk around the Chinatown market, bring my kid around, kind of thing. There's that spirit of spending exorbitant amounts of money on snacks. And,
wonderful.
Too many fried and processed foods.
So they're like the food stalls you can get food, like, not like the ones in containers, like just snacks you can just buy off the road like that.
Yeah, you can. It's like a pasar malam kind of feel.
What's the most Chinese New Year food you ate?
The most Chinese New Year food. So the thing now is that there's a lot more imported Chinese New Year types of food.
Oh, is it?
So stuff that they eat in China and Taiwan that you never ate in Singapore before. Now you can find them in Singapore. Like a certain kind of like jelly and all that. Like you go to Chinatown, literally there's like stores, like giant, a whole row where they sell nothing but Taiwanese jellies. So I know it sounds weird, but it's like that, that jelly that they used to give you in the army, that little kind of thing.
Yeah.
But imagine that in every conceivable flavor.
Is it?
In little packets that you just sort of squeeze in your mouth.
Got mala flavors.
No mala, but all sweet. All sweet flavors. Lychee, grape, and all these things. Even durian, I think now there's durian.
So how you feel it's infringing on the Chinese New Year food of your past or not?
No, I think think about what Face High said, right? It's about incorporating it into Singapore culture, and then it evolves to become uniquely Singaporean that way. Yeah. So seems like jelly is now a big thing in our Chinese New Year snack culture.
But you think there could be a divide between the people in Singapore who celebrate Chinese New Year? For example, with Deepavali and Diwali,
sure,
it had this deeper tension, between the North Indians coming to Singapore and pushing Diwali when it's supposed to be Deepavali. You think there might be some people from the Chinese demographic that might feel, hey, this is not what we have in Singapore?
He's talking about the nativists.
The nativists.
Possibly. Some might say that, last time I used to eat this snack. Why am I now eating this like strange, like for example, some German cake that's now being marketed with Chinese New Year packaging,
Huh?
Yeah. Like literally at Chinatown, you go, there's like a certain kind of cake, like triangle cake.
But it's German.
I believe it's German in origin, but now they package it as like a Chinese New Year goodie, and they sell a lot of different flavors and things like that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So now that you know that, it's not just about China or Taiwan, but even a European snack, for example.
But it's a German name or something.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I don't quote me on it. I think it's German, But my point is that, does it change your opinion that some of these goodies are coming from, not from China, not from Taiwan, but from Europe, and now being part of like the local Chinese culture?
Oh.
Is that a problem for you?
Oh, is it the Baumkuchen? It's like a donut cake kind of thing, like a circular cake.
No, this one is triangular.
Triangular.
I'm not 100% sure the origin, but it did not look like from China.
I think it's one of those things that, culture evolves. I don't know, like what would be an equivalent? Like you mean like Muruku starts getting phased out and there's some new kind of thing?
Yeah. But I mean, like, for example, I went to China, right? I ate at some of the food markets there. There's prata there. But they call it flying pancake or something like that.
But I mean,
flying pancake.
Bread is such a big part of Asian cuisine. It could just be very well a traditional Chinese.
No, it's prata.
Oh, is it?
It's like, they say it's from India, everything.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. But they call it like flying pancake. So does that make it less like
because
Indian?
When they make it, it flies, is it?
Flies out, yeah.
Was the guy really making it, tossing it and turning it?
He was tossing something. At first I thought he was like tossing the pancake, but he was actually tossing a towel. But it attracted my attention. Then I saw, it's prata, basically. But they call it like flying pancake or something like that.
I mean, that's quite cool.
Yeah. So you don't see it as a dilution of like whether it's the Indian cuisine itself or a dilution of Chinese culture that the pancake is there, right? Yeah. So I think here also we have to learn to accept that there will be a lot of different influences that will seep into our culture.
Mm.
And we shouldn't be too protective of what we have. Of course, if you really feel so strongly about what you have now and you don't want it to be lost, then do something to protect it, right? I think there are Singaporeans who are trying to do that.
I mean, I guess it's when it becomes something uniquely Singaporean, that's quite cool. Like, I mean, I went to McDonald's over the weekend, and though I didn't have the Prosperity Burger, I mean, McSpicy is a Singapore thing.
Singapore, proudly Singapore.
And it's fucking great.
I want anyone who comes to Singapore, I try to bring them to try the McSpicy.
Yeah, it's really like, whoo, man.
That's my jam. Like, I'll bring them to the Bishan McDonald's, the one in Bishan Park, and then eat a McSpicy there. Sit there by the greenery and eat a McSpicy. I think that's a uniquely Singapore experience.
Yeah, that's true. And it's beautiful, right? It's beautiful.
It's the most scenic McDonald's in the world I've ever visited.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're a connoisseur of McDonald's around the world.
I try to eat McDonald's everywhere I go, just to see what's different and what they have on the menu that's different and all.
Yeah, but McSpicy is great. Prosperity Burger also, I don't know whether it's anywhere else. But the McSpicy is like a permanent thing, which is great. Great.
Very Singapore thing. But
I mean, I guess talking about nativism and all that is the perfect context for the first topic. But before that, Terence, what is the spiel?
If you're new to the podcast, thank you for joining us. Please like, share, follow, subscribe for more talk about current affairs in Singapore and abroad. And what else do we want you to do?
And if you want to work with us, drop us a message at contact@ministryoffunny.com or check out ministryoffunny.com and leave us a message there. We always try to get back to anyone who reaches out, even if it's to kind of maybe explain why we can't work with you. But we will always get back to you. So the first topic, which some people were posting on our Reddit also, that hopefully we will talk about it. But I guess you can't not talk about it. It is the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. So his speech happened at midnight on Monday night, Singapore time. His inauguration.
The inauguration.
On Monday night.
Midnight.
Yes.
Monday night, midnight.
Monday night, midnight.
So Tuesday,
Tuesday morning. Tuesday early morning, Singapore time. And how do you consume it?
I watched a live stream on YouTube. I think CNN or something had it.
Yeah. And from the time, at which point?
I think like maybe 11:30, 11:45, I already just tuned in because people were starting to stream into their seats. So it's quite interesting. You started to see all the tech moguls coming in with their spouses. You start to see the Trump family also starting to come in. You start to see all the politicians hanging around, like Obama, Obama, Bush, Clinton. So it was just interesting to see all these people in the same room. And obviously I thought to myself, wow, like the net worth of that room alone,
The influencer.
Not even just influencer, literally net worth is more than the bottom 50% of America combined, right?
In fact, more, because the three wealthiest people themselves, Jeff Bezos, I think Zuckerberg and Musk is more than, I think, like
the bottom 50%.
But the three of them only.
Just the three of them. That's right.
It's nuts.
Bernie Sanders will not let you forget that. The three of them alone is more than the bottom 50% of America.
So basically, you were like the guest that arrived super early at a Chinese wedding.
Correct. Then you just sit there and watch everyone. So that was the cool thing about it. I think because the last time Trump's inauguration, or usually the inaugurations are usually outdoors, right? So it's very spread out and all. But this time it was all very contained in that room. So you could really look at how people are interacting in the room.
It's, I think, only the second time that it was kind of done indoors, right?
Is it?
I think the second time. And I mean, I saw some memes. I don't know whether it's true. They say, can you think about the crew who actually had laid down all the chairs on the lawn? But I think this was kind of confirmed that it would be indoors for quite a while already. So I think that is just like fabricated.
But there were people who traveled there hoping to be able to get us, even just sit outside and watch, right? But they couldn't. So it's a bit like, you bought tickets to, you bought a hotel and airplane tickets to catch Taylor Swift in the Project 1000, in the, what do you call it, not Project 1000, the Cat 1000 seats. But you ended up like not even being able to hear anything at all. That sucks.
I think there was a spillover room, but it also happened to be in that location. So not anyone could just go and watch that. Right. And I mean, if you think about it, like Trump also could be quite a smart thing, because the last time I remember there was always this debate about how his inauguration had like so many people, but actually when they zoom out, it had a lot less than Obama and all. Whereas this one, he filled it up.
Filled it up. Packed to the brim.
Yeah, packed to the brim. And then after that, you watched the 30-minute speech he gave.
Yeah.
Did you watch everything else after that, like Carrie Underwood singing and stuff like that?
No, I think by then it was really like 2+.
Oh, 2+.
So a bit late already.
So I consumed it in the morning, but I didn't do the sit down and watch people streaming thing. I just watched his 30-minute speech and sped through the rest. And also his speech after the inauguration speech that he did outside with his fans, I guess. And I mean, the first day he went on a rampage, but I mean, overall, it's been like 2 days since the 1.5 days. So how did you feel watching the inauguration, or what were the main takeaways for you?
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, right? As opposed to watching the snippets or after the fact. Watching it, I felt this throwback to 2016, where you're almost in disbelief at what he was saying on stage, the speech that he was giving. Because he was literally standing there on the rostrum speaking and talking about how terrible the previous administration had been and how terrible a place that America is now. And right behind him, over his shoulder, Biden and Harris are literally sitting there. And all the ex-presidents are sitting there,
Yeah.
And then on his right side, like all the billionaires are all sitting there, almost like his right-hand man, like Elon Musk and all, like sitting there cheering everything. And then, all the things you're saying and how every other sentence was standing up and giving a standing ovation. And then you would see Biden and Harris refuse to stand up and give a standing ovation, except at one point, right? It just brought back to 2016 that sense of like, wow, how divided their country feels. Even though, everyone was roaring in approval, but you just get this sense of like, how do you move forward as a country when everything just feels so divided between them. So I felt that was perfectly demonstrated in that moment.
So maybe for people who didn't watch it, just to go over some of the main things he said, because he definitely took disses at Biden and Harris. But overall, there was a lot about vowing to put America first. I think he started the speech by saying this is the golden age of the US, or something along those lines. He spoke about the crisis of trust. He spoke about his return to office as Liberation Day. And he talked about, like the problem with immigration. He said he's going to declare a national emergency at the southern border and send troops there. He said he's going to start drilling for oil. And he literally said, we're going to drill, baby, drill. And reversing a lot of the environmentally sustainable measures that was put in place by Biden. He talked about, making America great again, making America safe again. And there were so many times where he would say something and like what you say, almost the whole crowd would stand up. And, as much as you say it was a throwback for you to 2016, right? To me, it felt totally different, because I remember 2016, even 2020, when you watch it outdoors, it is such a spectacle of 100,000 people that even the cameras and all, you can see it's almost I almost don't remember paying attention much to what was being said, but just in awe of, holy shit, this is a mass human event. But this one, right, it really felt like a Game of Thrones scene where you have this ruler and 95% of the people in the room absolutely worship him. And they're like a small handful who just wish they didn't have to be there. Because there were so many times, like what you said, I think the only time Biden and Harris stood up was when they talked about the hostages being released. And even then...
Israel Hamas, right?
Yeah, Israel Hamas. Even then, I think you could see them what was it, look very stoic when Trump was saying it's because of him, one day before office. But I think they stood up to recognize that, ignoring all things, it's good that the hostages were released. And Bernie Sanders, he sat down throughout the whole thing, right? And then you see clips of Elon Musk just like looking like he's high on drugs and giving thumbs up to the camera. And it actually felt, so on one hand, right, I thought, fuck, if I'm a fan of Trump, this is an amazing speech. Because it really felt, even as not a fan of Trump, it felt like, oh shit, America, they are uniting a certain part of their population, the wealthiest and most influential part. And whether or not you don't like it, it feels like, oh shit, they have a certain momentum lah. But it's damn scary lah.
It's okay, Harish. It's okay to.
Yeah.
Is this a safe space?
To say that I'm a Trump supporter.
Yeah, you can say you're a Trump supporter.
No, because I think it's important to acknowledge that what he was saying, it did seem very pro-America, right? And if you take it at face value, that's why I say if you're a Trump supporter and if you wish to believe everything he says, it is very energizing.
Yeah.
But the moment you step back, right, you think about it, it was just focusing on all the world-winning stuff they can do that is going to leave a lot of people behind. And I think that is the scary part, because probably two people can watch the speech and depending on your political leanings, you will come away with very different feelings.
Yeah.
And I mean, as someone from far away Singapore, our country will definitely feel the impact of Trump. To me, it's like, oh shit, I'm just curious how this is going to pan out. Because with 2016, it almost felt like he was going into new waters and there was still this feeling that he doesn't know what he's doing, he's going to fuck up.
Yeah.
But now, right, it is the second time. And it feels like he has momentum and he feels a lot, he's come back with reinforcements. And that is damn fucking scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to listen to like analysis from both sides about it. And I think Bernie Sanders put out a video talking about how he felt about it, the inauguration. And he made a good point that, at the end of the day, like you heard a lot of things in the speech, but do you hear Trump talk much about income inequality, for example? And why did he not talk much about it? Because on his right side, the three richest men in America were sitting right there, being his right hand, right? Came to kiss the ring and all that. So he's not going to talk about income inequality, which is a problem that plagues Americans today, more than they realize. So they are saying that about the three billionaires sitting there. But if you watch something like Fox News, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they were saying that, Biden talks about, beware of the oligarchy in America that is going to take over and all that. They're saying, doesn't that tell you something? That these billionaires, this oligarchy, have to now come and sort of kiss the ring of the president. Doesn't that give you assurance that, that he's able to control them much better than how Biden was able to, or what was Biden doing under the table with the oligarchy, right? As opposed to Trump, who is open about it and has them at his beck and call, right? So there are different ways that, depending on your political beliefs and your belief in what will happen with Trump, right? You can watch his speech very differently and feel very differently about it.
Exactly. And that's why I think, to a certain extent, right, I think the US might actually do some amazing shit. Because it feels
amazing.
So I don't know if you saw this morning, there was an announcement of the Stargate project.
Yes.
Yeah, and you watch it, right? It's also very scary because there was a press conference where he stood there and alongside him, right, was Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI, Larry Ellison, who's the CTO of Oracle, and Masa Son, the founder...
Maya Soshi or something. SoftBank.
He's the... Masayoshi Son, who is the CEO of SoftBank. And what SoftBank has committed is a $500 billion investment into this project called Stargate, which is supposed to be the building of at least 20 huge-ass data centers that are all going to power the next wave of AI development in the US. And I think Trump was saying, with the fuel production and all, we'll make it happen. So you look at it, you're like, oh shit. And to see these three very powerful tech people all come to the pedestal and say, this would not have been possible if not for you, President. And kissing the ring. And it feels like, since when have you seen the tech CEOs be so on the same page to do something? And that's why it feels like, oh shit, if they can really pull this off, it will be insane. And then for Trump to also in his inauguration say put people on Mars, if they can do it, it'll be insane. But I think the scary part is that there will be the demographic who will be left behind. I think that is very easy to override because there's all this shiny stuff being talked about. And when you watch Bernie Sanders' video, it is a wake up that oh shit, he's focusing on all this stuff, but really there's so much other shit to take care of. And I think that all will will be left behind.
But so, again, it boils down to what you think is amazing, which is why I asked you what is amazing. Yeah. We've talked about this before where you used to worship Elon Musk, right?
To a certain extent,
And AI, I think you AI generally positive.
No. I'm fucking scared of it.
Okay.
So let me correct. This project Stargate, I'm saying amazing in the terms of technological progress. I think it's scary as shit. Because to me, it is Skynet.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, and it's damn scary because if they're going to be owning the domain of AI and what AGI and all these other things that are coming, it's damn scary.
Yeah.
So let me differentiate. Amazing in the sense of the technological achievement. What it means for society, I'm damn scared.
Correct, yeah. Because to me, AI in general, I feel government, yes, promote AI, but also need to maybe put guardrails around what it does to, jobs and people, or even like for a lot, something that affects us, for example, intellectual property, like how is AI being trained? Are people who actually create things, are they being compensated when the AI studies your thing and then emulates something you do, right? Yeah. For example, if you run our entire podcast, all 611 episodes through an AI thing, it can probably cough up a good approximation of your voice, my voice, and create a podcast that's entirely, we never even have to record anything anymore for the rest of our lives. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, right? So I'm still a bit like saying that creating more AI infrastructure without guardrails to me is quite scary also, right?
Yeah.
The other thing about Musk and I think going to Mars, I think people online were saying, sure, put an American on Mars, plant a flag there. But is that the priority for America now, right? As opposed to solving bigger problems, and it reminds me a lot. It reminds me a lot of the because recently I watched Interstellar again, and people, the storyline is of humans needing to leave Earth and conquer another planet because Earth is so so badly ruined that we need to escape it, And the moral dilemma there is like, is it so bad on Earth that we need to leave it behind and go and plant a flag on another planet as opposed to stay here and fix what we already have, right? So people are asking that question about Elon Musk's ambitions, and that obviously SpaceX will be given government contracts and all these things to fulfill its mission of going to Mars, but is that what really America needs at the moment? Right? But at the same time, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson will be the first one to say this, that if you didn't think about, if space exploration was not a priority back then, you wouldn't be enjoying the use of the MRI right now. There is technology that comes with any kind of technological advancement does bring everyone, medical field and other fields up also. So now that politics and technological process is so publicly intertwined, it's quite hard for me to give a 100% this is amazing or this is scary answer to this.
Yeah. That's why I think, to me, those things are almost not mutually exclusive. Because I do, there's a lot of literature that has been written about how the efforts to put a man on the moon by the US, whether or not you believe it true, did lead to a lot of advancements that raised the technological bar. And if you look at, let's say SpaceX and what Amazon with their Blue Origin, to have a reusable spacecraft is monumental.
The Kappa, the chopstick.
The Kappa, correct. The Kappa is monumental. And if it takes this vision to bring humans to Mars to make that happen, that's amazing. But I think net is damn scary because some examples, how we've been talking about how people get left behind, right? Certain examples that I think have already happened because Trump signed a record-breaking number of executive orders on day one.
Yeah.
And I think there's this one app called the CDP app or something like that, which is just something that anyone awaiting to be allowed into the US kind of users to have their appointments, to make their case the app has just been taken offline. So hundreds of thousands of people, if not 1 million, are just left in limbo. And they don't know what their status is going to be.
Yeah.
If the executive order about the US birthright, which is, I think, this law that if anyone is born on US soil, as long as their parents are there legally, they will be given US citizenship. And he's trying to overturn that. And if that is overturned, I think there's a ton of people who are banking on their kids getting citizenship and then having their parents come over and become citizens as well.
Yeah.
So then all those people could potentially be screwed.
Yeah.
And that was not talked about in the speech at all. So that's where it feels like, okay, on one hand, there might be all this advancement, but it's going to screw up the lives of a lot of people. And that is what is damn scary. And when you couple together with these tech bros who, you listen to Elon Musk talk, it's almost like, I don't care about what you feel. I don't care about whether you think this is wrong. If it means progress, this is the direction. That is what is scary. Because it feels like if they have that momentum with all these people just pushing forward, then what's going to happen to everyone else?
Yeah. And he also talked about he's going to, from now on, I think in the federal government, there's only two genders, right? Male and female. No more other kinds of classifications.
Yeah. And then no more work from home.
Yeah, no more work from home.
For federal employees.
Everyone comes in office.
Everyone just come back.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, I correct myself. It's the CBP One app. It's by the US Customs and Border Protection.
Yeah.
I think earlier today there was news that they are withdrawing from the WHO.
Yes, the World Health Organization.
Yeah. And then they are withdrawing from the Paris climate change, Paris, that agreement. So it feels like, oh shit, I think he signed I don't know how many executive orders. And when I was trying to understand what an executive order is, basically it's something that allows a president to act quickly. It cannot override laws passed by Congress, but can guide how laws are enforced.
Yeah.
And I think Congress can still block it, but it does have quite a bit of momentum.
Yeah.
And some of the more notable executive orders, I guess the most notable of which was the one signed by Abraham Lincoln in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation, which basically ended slavery.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of executive orders he can sign, but not 100% that all of them will, go through or won't be challenged legally or whatever. So, I mean, the interesting thing was that even that signing all those executive orders, he made it like a press conference where he literally had members of the press in the room as he was signing those stacks. They brought him one by one, each thing to sign, and then they will read out what it is, then he'll just sit there and sign it and answer questions at the same time. So I was like, wow, this guy, I mean, whatever you want to say about him, at 78 years old, right? 78 or something. Yeah. He's got the energy of someone in his 30s or 40s, right? Yeah. Doing work, answering questions from reporters at the same time as the president and just doing all this. But that's it. There was also, I don't know if you saw, there was a moment where I think they went for a church service the day after or the day off, where there was a bishop, I think, a female bishop, who literally said to, addressing president, that I hope you have mercy on the, immigrants and the LGBTQ community. And then Trump was then blackfaced about it during that whole service.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So, it's become, religion and politics and all starting to all come together also. Because Trump invoked religion a lot in his speech also, right?
He did.
About bringing God back to the
And he said he was saved by God, right?
Yeah, exactly. The assassinations.
And another thing we didn't mention is that he wants to bring an end to all DEI programs.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So then I'm curious because the amongst the Hispanics and I think the black voters, he got more votes than the last time.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just wondering, for things that are meant to uplift minorities and, be more equitable, he's removing that. How do those minority communities feel? That's why I think, what you said, it's probably even more polarizing than it was in 2016 and 2020. Correct. Because now it feels, anyone who didn't watch the speech, just go and watch certain parts just to see everybody stand up, right? And fucking clap.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was damn creepy. It felt like a cult.
Yeah. But one thing, as a Singaporean watching it, one thing to remember is that America is a very different place from Singapore. So, for example, when Trump says federal government from now on, everyone has to work from home, whatever, right? In Singapore, if the government says, all government employees now have to work from home, right? A lot of times in Singapore, the private sector generally will start following, what the public sector is doing. But I think in the US, it's a very different thing where whatever happens or decisions are made in Washington, D.C., where the seat of power is, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the country, especially the private sector, will follow exactly what they do in DC. It's a much more the relationship between the public and private sector isn't as closely intertwined as in Singapore, where they really look at each other and, hey, what are you doing? What's the public sector doing? You know, what's the bonus this year for public sector employees? Over there in the US, it's much more separate. And I say this also having worked there, where you don't even spend that much time thinking about what they talk about in Washington, D.C. And thinking about how it affects your work.
But then now all the private sector companies all kissing Trump's ring, right?
Correct. So I think that's also come as a quite big shock to even, employees of all these big tech firms, like especially Meta, which basically has been accelerated its flip overnight, right?
Yeah.
All the different things that they've announced, and like Nick Clegg, the British politician, has also left Meta already.
He used to be head of public relations.
Yeah, international public relations, all that. So he has to be a bit more diplomatic in dealing with these things with government and all. But now he's out the window and replaced by a more Republican leaning strategist.
Yeah.
So I think even the employees of Meta are dealing with the fallout of this, of understanding what's the direction going forward in the company and all these things. Also, it's much more like now, maybe because all these tech billionaires are coming to kiss the ring of Trump, the ripple effects will be felt more keenly than in previous years.
Because last time, whenever you think of tech companies, you think, they all lean super left.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it might go to the complete opposite. Because it felt damn weird looking at Larry Ellison, Maya Masayoshi, and Sam Altman just come up and almost fanboying over Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Where what we've used to in the past is these tech companies almost see the government as an antagonist.
Yeah.
You're like, let me do my shit.
Yeah.
But now it's like, thank you for doing this. And it just felt like, oh shit. Something very, very even the SoftBank guy was saying, at first I wanted to pledge 100 billion, and then you said, why not 200 billion? Today I come with 500 billion. And you watch it, you're like, oh fuck, that's not a small number,
Yeah.
And I mean, on the more, scary side of things also, Trump, I think he signed an executive order to pardon about 1,500 people who were arrested for the January 6th Capitol Hill riots, including people who are serving 18-year sentences, 22-year sentences for assaulting police officers.
Yeah, there were police officers who
were
died.
Killed, right? Yeah.
So people are saying also, how do these people feel, right?
Yeah.
The police officers who were there during the attack and everything.
Yeah. So that also blows my mind, because that was one of the most polarizing things in the US.
Yeah.
And now you have a president who has pardoned 1,500 of them. And I don't know whether that counts as an executive action, which means it can be challenged, I think.
I think so, yeah. No, but presidential pardons.
Pardon cannot.
Because Biden also pardoned a bunch of people right before
while Donald Trump was giving his speech.
Correct, yeah. Because in fact, he pardoned his own family, preemptively pardoned his family for the last 10 years or something like that, as in for anything they did for the last 10 years. Because I think there's a fear of retribution that could happen against Biden's family, against, Liz Cheney, who headed up the January 6th inquiry, right? Against, basically...
Anthony Fauci, the COVID guy,
COVID guy, basically in the US. So he had to preemptively pardon them to prevent any kind of retributive action against them, which is, you think about it's crazy, right? Yeah. It's like having to protect your family. You are the president who's leaving the throne, but you have to do something to protect your family against the next president.
And I know that one he got a lot of criticism.
He did,
even from the Democrats, because it just felt like, wow, that's a.
But that's the thing, right? When you see Trump, someone was saying that this speech this time can feel even darker or more scary than 2016 one.
I think it's scarier.
Because 2016, like you said, people almost said that Trump himself was surprised he won, right?
Yeah.
He didn't know what's happening. And he was hiring all these people in his team, and then 1-2 months later, he'll fire them because, they couldn't get along and all that. But now, everyone that he's putting in place are his loyalists, people who supported him through the years and who... Through the convictions, everything have defended him all the way. And now he's really on the revenge tour already.
Yeah.
He knows how to use the system. He knows what he can do and can't do as a president. And he's going to use that to, really exact his revenge on people who wronged him.
I mean, like when he was signing the executive orders, he looked damn comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm using my computer and my wife tell me to get some groceries or something, I don't even like have to be like, what? Sorry, what? Yeah. He was just, and again, like if you haven't watched it, just go watch it because it honestly felt like they were in his house.
Yeah.
Right. And he was just like doing, and these were executive orders that he was just signing, taking questions in between, and very like, you know, sometimes you'll ask the person to repeat the question. It just felt very surreal. And you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Because it's almost the opposite. I think President Biden or ex-President Biden took the lowest number of press conferences of any president for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I think that's, to me, this speech was much scarier than 2016.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, are we reaching a time in history again where we shouldn't go around asking people about politics, about their politics?
Why?
Because I get, like, for example, when we talked about the survey that they did in Singapore, more than 60-70% said that Donald Trump being president of the US is a positive thing, right? Whether for Singapore or for the world or what. And also, same, you watch, his inauguration, you see the standing ovations and everything that he was getting, and all the people who have come to kiss the ring and all that, right? Like, there's a lot of polarization. Then you go online and read what people are saying. There's a lot of polarization in society. So have we reached a point that maybe it's better to just skip the question of like what you think about Donald Trump or politics or that if maybe, you want to be polite in like dinner conversations and all that?
Because can you imagine I go to a dinner and someone asks me, oh, what do you think of the speech? And I start off by saying, actually, it was very invigorating. But they don't allow me to finish the part where I say it's scary as shit, right? Then they already see me as a Trump supporter, which you also see me as, right? You see me as Trump supporter already. Yeah, but there's nuance. I'm just trying to be objective, but the nature of this podcast means that we need to hear each other out.
Correct.
But at dinner, right?
Dinner is tough,
dinner is tough.
Or vice versa, right? Like someone's talking to you about politics or whatnot, right? And how much do you want to reveal about who you support or what you think of Trump and all that?
Yeah.
Because there are big Trump supporters in Singapore also.
Yeah.
I definitely got some messages celebrating Trump's inauguration. Yeah, from people.
Like in a group, is it?
Yeah. Like private messages and things like that.
Oh, serious?
Yeah. So there are... Trump has does have his supporters.
I think he definitely has supporters.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, if you're in Singapore and you are kind of getting tired of the establishment in Singapore, the condescending speeches in parliament by some of them and all, I can imagine why you might think that, hey, actually someone like Trump, right, is what the world needs.
Correct, yeah.
Which is also scary.
Yeah. But this is a question I asked you a day or two ago. Do you think how do you think this would affect people, Singaporeans in the next general election, how we vote?
Oh, based on what we see with Trump, the US election.
Based on what you see happening in the US.
That's a good question.
Because I postulate that now looking at the US again, it's back to those days of like, what the hell is going on there? You don't know how Trump is going to react to things or what he's going to say or do that could be bad for you, right? Or he could come to Singapore again and do a Trump-Kim Summit Part 2 and, I love Singapore and like we're going to have a fantastic relationship around that. So you don't really know. And in the midst of all that uncertainty, maybe in Singapore it might push people to want to vote for certainty. That's what I'm speculating.
So I would say that just like how I think, what I said, you can have two people watch this inauguration speech and both come away with very different feelings.
Yeah.
I think it would push the demographic in Singapore in either or both ways. If you maybe are very cynical about the establishment and you want change, you might think, hey, if the US can have someone like Trump in charge and things, there's so much energy, I think we need a change and it would invigorate them. But like what you said, I think if you look at it, you're like, oh shit, you have no idea what's going to happen. I think vote for certainty. So I think it might push people to the edges.
Yeah. But also to note, in 2024, almost like in all the like most elections around the world, like the incumbent have mostly lost. I think that was a crazy trend, right? Where it seemed like upheaval was like the norm, right? Where people wanted change.
And they tended to be more right-leaning, right?
A lot more right-leaning, So, I don't know, man. I don't know how this will make, people feel about the world at large. But I definitely felt like that day watching the thing, I was like, wow, I really felt like, wow, really throw back to that feeling of, I don't know what the hell is going on right now, and I don't know what it's going to be like for the next year.
Yeah.
Of course, as it slowly panned out and unraveled, then, you kind of got used to it over time. But now you're just being thrust back to that stage, like, what the hell? You can't say this kind of thing, man.
Yeah.
It was like quite jarring for me.
Yeah.
It made me, I actually like couldn't really sleep properly after that also. Even though it was like 2, 3 o'clock. Yeah. Just like, what the heck did I just watch, that kind of feel.
Just in terms of what he said or the whole spectacle of it?
I think what you raised is true, that it was really like watching it was like watching a Game of Thrones scene or something from Succession, where everyone who is affected by what he says is in the room. You literally see their reactions on the spot. Biden and Harris and Obama and like the Zuckerberg in the background, RFK Jr., everything. All these people have their own controversies and they have skin in the game, right? And you see all of them all squirming and making all these things right in front of us. So that was what was like. It was like watching a very riveting reality show, like a Singles Inferno kind of thing.
And maybe that is the perfect analogy to sum up what like even I took away from it, is that for this new Trump, right?
Yeah.
There will be this circle that benefits a shit ton, who are the most influential, and everyone else is left on the outside.
Yeah.
Whereas previous inauguration, right, you can get 100,000 people participating in the same thing.
Yeah.
And this might be his PR masterstroke, because he knows the visual of an entire room in the palm of your hands is a lot more powerful than 100,000 people who are there just, to like tourists coming and watching and all. No, he wanted to have, this is my room, this is my people, I own them.
Yeah, this like small cabal of people.
And that might be the underlying thing you see throughout his presidency, that this inner circle, right?
Yeah.
They will be the movers and shakers.
Yeah. But speaking of visuals, like, what do you think of what the people were wearing? What's any of the particular?
I saw a lot of memes about millennial.
Yeah.
The hat, the hamburger.
Some people say Undertaker, some people say hamburger.
Do you see when Trump tried to kiss her?
Yeah, he couldn't reach because of the hat, the rim of the hat. And people are saying that's how bad their relationship is, that she would wear a hat so that Trump couldn't kiss her. But I thought it was more because maybe she didn't want people to see her eyes, right? Because her eyes are like quite, if she like,
squints or
something, she can look like very disapproving. So maybe she didn't want people to be able to analyze how her eyes were reacting whenever Trump is talking, right?
Or maybe cannot see where she's looking, because it'll cast a shadow on her eye, right? And she can scan the crowd and all.
Yeah. And then I think Barron Trump, like the son of Melania and Trump, he's super tall. People pointed out that he's 18 years old, but he went over to shake Biden and Harris's hand after the whole thing. And people like, you see, that's class. That's real class, going to shake your opponent's hands rather than just ignore them or what.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite telling. And then Michelle Obama decided to skip. Yeah, she decided to skip it. Mike Pence, the former VP.
Oh, he was there, right?
Yeah, has spoken out against Trump and everything before, but he was there and shook hands with Trump. So I don't know.
Bill and Hillary Clinton were there.
Yeah.
George Bush and his wife were there.
Yeah. I think there was a clip of Hillary Clinton laughing when Trump was saying that he's going to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America or something like that, right?
Yeah. The New York Times had this one article where they annotated parts of his speech, I think, and they would point out stuff like, yes, he might be able to change the name that is used internally, but you can't just change the name without like the other countries buying into it. And apparently China doesn't operate the Panama Canal. It's just like a Hong Kong-based company operates the ports at either end.
I see.
But Panama operates the Panama Canal. So they did an article that kind of pointed out certain things like it is not true.
But but we're beyond fact-checking already. Zuckerberg has said fact-checking is just inherently politically biased. So, don't know, man. Like, that's why it's such a...
It's surreal, It's surreal.
Uncertain world, right?
Yeah, then Lawrence Wong said, you know what? I'm going to call the committee.
Yeah. But maybe that's where, like I said, like the so-called uncertainty of what the US, is going to be forward. That kind of uncertainty maybe might push people towards seeking certainty in other ways.
Maybe it was a calculated thing. After Trump's speech, which would probably be off the rails, then we announced the convening of the Electoral Boundaries Review Committee. Tinfoil hat speculation, taking a leaping.
Yeah. But I'm sure there are considerations like that, right? But at the same time, how much do Singaporeans really care about
true.
on the ins and outs of US politics? Like an event like inauguration, I don't think a lot of people are staying up to watch it also, right?
Yeah. But let's say the thing about ending DEI programs, right?
Yeah.
Apparently companies like McDonald's in the US are pulling back DEI programs. And like as with a lot of things that tend to be left-leaning or seen as progressive, whatever the US does, chances are it might be trickled down to other countries. So if you see companies in the US start pulling back DEI initiatives, does it mean around the world?
Yeah.
Like the third-party fact-checking that Meta is ending right now is constrained to the US, but will it extend to the rest of the world? I don't know.
Yeah, correct.
So that's where I think further down the line, there will be impact in Singapore. It's just how much.
Correct. And maybe Trump being elected also really reminds us of what Bilahari, when he came on our podcast, really said that Singapore, we kind of have to chart our own path, right? We can't, where nobody's going to come and save us or anything, right? And, whether you can't be 100% support the US, 100% support China, you kind of got to play both sides a little bit, right? And I think now it's a bigger reminder that, Trump is pulling back from a lot of, WHO and all these international commitments that they had. So where does that leave a small country like Singapore, right? Or even the whole region of Southeast Asia? Where does it leave us, right? We don't know.
And I mean also that he's the oldest president entering the presidency, previously held by Biden.
Oh, yeah.
78. He's the oldest.
It's crazy that he's the same age as Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton, he was president donkey years ago for like 8 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why at the end of the day, whatever you want to say, he is active aging. That's what Trump is doing.
He said before he doesn't really exercise because he believes that you have a finite amount of energy and exercising it reduces the energy.
And his diet is horrible. So he eats like McDonald's and Diet Coke.
But there's something about him that at 78, remember there was one photo he took next to Biden?
Yeah.
And I think he's 3 years younger.
Yeah.
But Biden looked like his dad.
Yeah, correct. And remember the crazy visual, I think the night before the inauguration, they had a party, right? And then he was on stage and he invited the village people, the actual village people themselves, YMCA.
Not a cover band.
Not a cover band, not cosplayers, whatever. The actual village people went on stage and sang YMCA while Trump did his Trump dance right next to them. And then I think at that point I showed it to you and I told you, I feel like we're already living in meme world. Like, he's able to take all the memes and self-reference them, and then people self-reference them until to the point where the village people are performing on stage alongside Donald Trump.
I mean, he literally launched his own meme coin. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. But also there was something from a former village people member saying that the original band would never play Trump rally because apparently the original members are not the same members as it was.
It changes over time, I think.
Changes over time.
Yeah, but it's just...
Yeah, it's damn funny.
It's just amazing. I mean,
fucking funny.
The fact of what the song YMCA is supposed to represent and, the costumes that they were wearing on stage, oh my God.
Yeah, crazy. Crazy. But yeah, man.
Woo. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, quite relevant to what we're also talking about next, about, income inequality in society as well. But this one is much closer to home.
Yeah.
Actually involves some young people as well. And what is this incident?
It is a recent ad that was calling for applications for the HCIS scholarship. And HCIS standing for Hwa Chong International School.
Yeah.
So it shows a female student in the HCIS uniform posing with her arms crossed. So yeah, talking about scholarships. And when you hear the word scholarships, it almost feels like, okay, this will, cover the cost of education for people who maybe can't cover the cost by themselves. But a person online, a netizen, pointed out that the shoes that are worn by the female student in question, right, are actually Christian Dior shoes.
Yep.
They are Dior Vibe sneakers that currently retail for $1,690 on the Dior website.
Yeah.
So people are saying, hey, but there's one scholarship, but then the person in the ad is wearing shoes that are so expensive. Aren't scholarships for people who can't afford the school fees?
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you look at it, you're like, okay. But what are your thoughts, Terence?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just something that the girl's wearing, right? But actually, what the rabbit hole that I got into was to looking up the Dior Vibe sneaker a little bit, trying to understand why is a pair of sneakers $1,700, and why would anyone, even if you have money, why would you want to pay for this as opposed to buy, say, the top end like Nike or Adidas shoe that is really engineered to make you a better athlete or something like that, right? So I went to look up what the Dior Vibe sneaker is, and just to quote some of it, it reimagines the classic running shoe, and it combines the grey Dior oblique technical fabric, mesh and transparent rubber inserts. So it's meant to be a modern play on contrasts.
So it's meant for people to run and exercise in. No,
it's
right?
a sneaker. No, it's not. It reimagines the classic running shoe.
Okay, reimagines.
And then the design is further punctuated with iconic accents like the 3D effect details, star charm on the back, and signatures on the tongue and rear tab. Completed by transparent rubber sole, so it will complement any casual, elegant attire for a contemporary look. So if you really look at the pictures of the Dior Vibe on the website, because I think the images that they took from the advertisement were not very clear.
Yeah.
You look at the design of the shoe, there's this whole section, there's a grey motif, right? From what I can gather from just looking at pictures of it is that it's actually the word Dior, like on like sort of like a 3D kind of 3D textured pattern where there's like Dior on top of Dior on top of Dior lah. And then because of that, it becomes a more complex motif that on picture maybe doesn't do it justice, but I think you see in real life, my guess is it will look quite luminescent, like almost like 3D, and you can see layers and there's depth to it. So I'm just talking about this as a sneakerhead, like why someone might want to buy this rather than like just buy any typical Nike kind of thing.
Pretty ugly, the shoe.
That's what you think from looking at this picture like that. But I'm saying maybe in person it's much nicer than we think.
It's worth 1,000. I mean, okay, but this whole thing of luxury stuff, I myself cannot understand it.
Sure.
But you look at people who spend $1,000 on handbags, right?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, there's a whole debate. Then watches and cars.
Yeah.
But I mean, for a student, I mean, clearly, I don't think she paid for it like with her own salary or something like that.
But I was just looking at it from like sneakerhead kind of thing, and I can imagine that sneakerheads, when thinking about these are the things that make the details that sneakerheads really enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's what they would, pay a lot of money for, go for the drops for.
Yeah.
So, like you said, that someone is paying $1,700 for it, if they can afford it, it's not like it's a very ugly, stupid thing that they're paying for. You're not paying for you're not wearing Labubus on your feet or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
You're paying for something that even as a sneakerhead, it can be seen as quite classy, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing to clarify is that even though HCIS sounds like, HCI, Hwa Chong International School and Hwa Chong Institution are two different entities. So Hwa Chong Institution is a secondary school in Singapore, and I mean the fees are not exorbitant or something like. But for this HCIS, right? Apparently the school fees are from year 1 to year 3, 30,500 per annum.
Yeah.
For year 4, for the IB1 and IB2 students, it's $35,000 per annum. So when you look at it and you look at their website, they're talking about it quite atas lah, right?
Yeah.
So the people they are attracting are already people who come from backgrounds where you can afford these fees lah.
Sure.
So with that context, then maybe it was it's perfect, because who else would wear shoes that are $1,300?
Correct, yeah. And at the end of the day, it's when I look at the poster, the shoes are, if no one pointed out that the shoes were $1,700, I wouldn't even notice the shoes at all. Yeah. What I noticed is how long her red tie is.
Oh yeah, that's
it's
true.
Almost Trumpian, right? Where it's almost gone to the crotch already, which is how Trump wears his ties, right?
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be a big no-no in fashion, right?
Yeah.
There's the bigger thing that stood out to me. But people pointing out the shoe, maybe remember how when we talked about Iswaran staying at a $5,000 a night suite in Doha.
Yeah.
And then we were like, wow, so expensive. And then people in comments were like, oh, low SES talking. Right?
Low SES.
Maybe that's how the people who made this ad for HCIS are thinking, all these low SES people commenting about a shoe that's not that expensive.
So then, we'll never know the truth, but you think it was like an intentional thing? Because on one hand, I can imagine the people putting together this poster, which I mean is not fucking groundbreaking design.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't even know the shoes were that expensive.
Yeah, I think my guess would be they didn't even know.
Yeah. But then is this an actual student?
I would imagine.
Right?
Imagine, yeah. Because imagine if it wasn't an actual student and then it gets found out later that, they just hired a model to wear.
Then it's a bit weird also.
Yeah, a bit weird, right? So usually these kind of things, at least, I don't know, in school last time, whenever there were these kind of public campaigns, they usually would get an actual student, but usually the model student who's well-liked and no scandals and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And maybe the student didn't even know the ad that she was going to be in.
Correct, yeah.
Right. But it means she's an actual student who actually wears these kind of shoes.
Yeah, but we don't know how she got the shoes also. What if it was like gifted by, some grand uncle or something like that she has no relation with, not even her own parents.
Then she wears to school?
Yeah, no, not wear to school. Wears to a photo shoot because it's the one she knows this photo shoot is going to go on public and all that. And she just wants to
flex.
Not say flex but I have a nice pair of shoes that I'm going to wear to an event, right?
Yeah.
And then usually wear a nicer pair of shoes, right?
The people who were taking photos, they didn't know exactly how much it cost. And the people editing, they're like, oh, these shoes, a bit weird.
Maybe
color.
Maybe she doesn't know what these shoes are for also.
So, colors, differentiating color is not my forte. The shoes are grey.
The pattern is grey, yeah.
And then the Hwa Chong uniform, what's the other color of the...
White and khaki.
Oh, khaki.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm saying that it might not be her, like wanting to flex or what. It really might be, this is the best pair of shoes that she has and she's told to wear something nice for the thing. Don't wear anything dirty and she decides to wear it.
So like, do you think that, like how, I think it was the last episode we spoke about that Pakistani Airlines, right? The distasteful ad.
Yeah.
So you think this ad could have been done better?
I think... I don't think it's that big a deal, honestly. 1,007 to us sounds like a lot, right? But we also grew up in a very different era from kids today. And kids, I'm saying like, young adults, or even, maybe older teenagers, or a lot of them are spending a lot on the shoes, They spend a lot more on like buying nice sneakers and all these things. And not necessarily because they all have more money or what, but it's just the whole market is inflated in prices also, right? Like even if even as an adult, if you wanted to get into the shoe hobby now, just remember it's no longer like what it used to be. Like you couldn't get last time you couldn't, you could easily get a pair of like normal, Nike or Adidas shoes for like less than $100. You could get something pretty decent already. Now, $100 like can barely get you anything from any of these chains, right? So maybe to them, like spending that much on a shoe is not even it's not even a big deal. Like how remember back in the day, last time when you buy a new mobile phone, you spend maybe like $200, $300, and that's considered a lot already. Now people don't bat an eyelid when they spend like $1,500, $2,000 on a mobile phone.
Yeah, it's
just the way that that people have priced these items differently already.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I would imagine that the first thought is when you see an ad for a scholarship, it is meant to target people who cannot afford the school fees.
Okay.
But for this sort of school, okay, so then it becomes a philosophical thing, right? Like just because your family technically can afford it, doesn't mean you shouldn't apply for the scholarship.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right answer for that. I know someone who went to a school that we went to who got a scholarship, and she was presented the scholarship by basically, if you're well-to-do, does it mean you cannot apply for scholarship? I think it's hard to say, oh, no, you can't.
Yeah.
It can be the individual choice.
Sure.
So in this case, it is if you're talking to people who come from higher SES, then maybe the ad makes sense because people who see this article, they might think, oh, what is damn distasteful? But maybe people who are already thinking of going to HCIS, they're like, hey, I own a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
That could be me.
Yeah.
And now I don't need to pay for school fees. Let me apply. Because they offer scholarships to non-Singaporeans also, no?
That's right.
To come to Singapore.
Yeah. So, don't judge people based on what they wear, Harish. But so I ask you, if let's say they dig, and then they found out this girl worked her ass off for like 3 months in a summer internship so that she could afford this beautiful pair of shoes.
Kudos to her.
And she decides to wear them because, I'm finally being able to be featured on my school newspaper or, in this advertisement. Would that change your mind about whether this is distasteful?
Okay, so like even by that already you're assuming that I find this distasteful.
Okay, yeah.
My initial thought was like, like why? But when you look at it, you're like, it's an international school where the fees are already, it's meant for a certain demographic.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay lah, this is their approach. But I mean, if let's say there was an individual who worked the ass off to buy this, I'm like, well, kudos to you, power to you. How you want to spend your money is up to you. But I feel like spending money on this is something like, okay, not my cup of tea. Yeah. But if you earned it, you're free to do what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for you?
Same. I think we all have our own vices in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Spending on different things, experiences are also very expensive that some people would refuse to spend on experiences like that, right?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, even at some point you will be faced with that dilemma of like how much to spend on, childcare or your kids' lessons and things like that. And some people would scoff at it like, how the hell can you pay the kind of money for, a 3-year-old to go and learn to play some exotic instrument and all that. But to some people, it is important. Right?
So in future, if your kid comes, Papa, I want this pair of shoes. It's only $1,500.
Yeah. No. Firm no. Firm no for me. Because, I came from that, we came from that era where it's like, you don't spend that kind of money on shoes.
Yeah.
And even when I got into the hobby, I was so irritated by, when I got into the hobby, not even like when I was young, but later in life, right? I got into the hobby thinking that I wanted to like collect like, Air Jordans from, because I was a big fan of Michael Jordan back then. And the whole thing just became ridiculous with the prices shooting through the roof and resellers and all that. I just hated that whole economy, the whole economy around sneakers and all that. So to me, it's like a big no. Like don't fall into that trap, right? Or that they're setting for you.
Yeah. For me also same big no. Big no.
Yeah. Then what luxury would you allow your kid, let's say at this age, this Hwa Chong kid's age, to partake in?
Luxury.
That means anything like above $1,000 that they kind of ask you, can I do it? Then you will be okay. I want to sponsor you.
If it's like really a once in a lifetime experience.
Ultra Marathon Iceland, where they're raising money for charity and it's going to do good for the rest of Singapore because I'm such a good person.
Honestly, if they wanted to do that, it might be something I might consider. Because they're really pushing themselves. If they have to train that much to go and do it, then to me I'm like, hey, yo. Okay, so
and
I would
also
say,
can do good. And also can do good. Right?
Can do good. Just don't tell certain friends who will judge you. But yeah, if it's something like a once in a lifetime experience, if it's something that really can like provide them value in terms of education or something, then I feel okay, it's an investment. Material stuff like this, that one I feel is like, I've never been a fan of it.
Yeah.
Never been a fan of it. Like you talk about a phone, a smartphone. Like beyond a certain point, of course, is like nonsense money. But that basic smartphone, which might be a lot more expensive than what phones used to cost, it really provides a shit ton of value.
Yeah.
So that to me is like, last time also, I remember when I had to get a new PC, I'll look for like the baseline requirement. But then I think at one point, just I decided to get something a bit more powerful, and like the value it provides is insane.
Yeah.
So now you strike the balance, like what you find worth spending on. If you can add value, then yeah. But material stuff that has just you wear and then it wear and tear and it's gone. Yeah. For you?
Yeah. I think some kind of like experience that they, hopefully travel somewhere, learn something. I think that's worth.
Papa, I want to go to Iceland to do an ultra marathon like Uncle Harish.
Can. Just don't be a hypocrite about it and like paint like you are making charity. We're going to pay for you to go and run a marathon.
But Papa, I can raise money for this non-profit that will help, single mothers.
Yeah.
Can, Papa?
Yeah, please go and shave, the shape of something in your head and make sure that everyone knows about it.
But Papa, I want to shave your name in my head, Papa.
No. No need. Then that's why I say stop right there. No, but I think, something that I do believe traveling opens their eyes to a lot of things. And even better if they got a chance to travel with like school, such as an educational tour or something. Yeah. I actually don't think those kind of things are worth paying for, right?
Yeah. But material stuff,
material stuff is like
tricky.
Unless they earn the money entirely themselves or something,
Yeah.
I think it's best not to do that.
Yeah.
And that's it from me myself. I think I was also, a lot of times in my youth I was very fixated on material stuff also, and now years later I'm like, that's not a good thing. Yeah.
Oh, Terence.
Introspective.
Introspective.
Yeah. Dawn.
But yeah.
Yeah, so power to the Hwa Chong student if you bought the 1.7K Dior shoes yourself.
Yeah, that's why.
A lot of caveats there.
That's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, what is your one Shiok comment, man?
My one Shiok comment is actually from our YouTube channel, right? I think in recent times, there's a lot of people who also come to correct us on YouTube, lah. So one thing that someone was saying about the last episode where we talked about the Pakistani International Airlines and the advertisement and all. I'm trying to pull up the exact one, but there's someone was saying that actually, maybe it is our perception of 9/11 being a very big deal to that everyone should immediately know that you shouldn't do something like that. Maybe that might just be the fact that we are very exposed to Western culture, Western media, Western culture, because there are people in the Middle East who, for them, they don't even think about 9/11 as like something that is such a big thing for them. Or at least it didn't happen anywhere close to them, or they don't see a lot of it in the media. So for them, that reference, that linkage of like a plane and a structure next to each other, they don't immediately think of 9/11. And it could have been what was driving the responses within the even Pakistani Airlines, the responses to this ad. Like, oh, really, man? Why are you all going to link these two things together? And that's just a reminder that we in Singapore, we also see things a certain skewed way. That's the truth, right?
Yeah.
That there might be a bit more nuance to how people are reacting.
Yeah. I mean, my one Shiok comment on the Reddit thread was very similar sentiments. I don't know if it's the same person or whether it's the same sentiment.
Yeah.
It is Captain Black Chess on Reddit.
Yeah.
But basically said something similar. I'm going to provide a very objective comment regarding the PIA ad.
Okay.
9/11 is not a big deal to the folks in the Middle East. Western forces have caused loss of life, infrastructure, and whole economies in the region before and after 9/11.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just curious. It makes you think like, oh shit, like there's that Rorschach test, right? The dots.
Rorschach.
Rorschach, where you show it and what people see, the first thing that comes to mind kind of reflects their own prejudices and biases.
Yeah.
So maybe if you show this ad here in the Middle East, out of 100 people on the street, they're like, what does this remind you of? They're like, travel.
A plane. Yeah.
A plane. Yeah. So, I mean, it's true. I think there was one anecdote that someone told both of us a few years ago that person used to work at Google. And this was around the time of 2016 presidential elections.
Yeah.
And they shared this anecdote that when Trump was elected, the company organized how you say, town halls to assure people that, things are going to be okay and all that. And they did not realize that even within Google, which at that point was very left-leaning, there were people who supported Trump.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, I was like, hey, actually, I never thought about it, that you can't just assume that people work at Google, they're all politically the same.
Yeah.
And he said it was quite disappointing to see the company as a whole assume that everybody was aligned with them politically.
Yeah.
So you live in your bubble.
That's true.
But yeah.
I think maybe that was the comment I was referencing.
On Reddit.
So it's actually on Reddit. There are other comments about Pakistani Airlines on YouTube, but it's
Captain
related.
Black Chess.
Yeah. So, okay, we have a combined one Shiok
comment.
Yeah.
And what about your one Shiok thing, man?
Yeah, my one Shiok thing is something that actually I wanted to reference in the last episode. One of our readers, one of our listeners, actually pointed it out and sent it over to us, won't say who because it was a DM, but basically there is just recently there was a research paper, research article, right, by researcher Kenneth Paul Tan of, I think, the Hong Kong Baptist University. The latest article is called Podcasting Politics in Singapore, Hegemony, Resistance and Digital Media. And this article was published in Critical Asian Studies, the publication, and it is available on open access for everyone to read. So the study examines how podcasts are reshaping political communication in Singapore. And why it was sent to us was because Yalabat was not only just mentioned in it, right, but actually was part of the study data. Responses to our podcasts, the guests that we had on our podcast, all that was part of the study data that was analyzed and, run through some rigorous academic rigor, right? To try and extract some information about how people were reacting to podcasting in Singapore. So I thought it was pretty cool because it's not often that the work you do becomes studied and recognized in academic literature, right? So yeah, that was it was quite surprising to read. And it's not just us that we're not the only ones mentioned, as in we're not the only podcast mentioned in this paper. I think a couple others like Okay, Let's Go, Daily Catch Up and all. But yeah, that thanks to everyone who pointed it out to us, and I think we'll put a link to where you can read it so that people who are interested can actually read it for themselves. But did you see it, and what do you think of it?
I mean, there's like there are people who just pass judgments on podcasts or content creators, and I don't know, I just doing their hobby and all that. But for someone to study, quite cool. And it's almost like another milestone. Like last year, it was being mentioned in Parliament. Now we have had articles written about us before, but now academic papers, we can add that to the list.
Citations.
We have been studied. We have been studied. So interesting.
And we always talk about like featuring people's one shot comments, right?
Yeah.
There are YouTube comments of our videos that have been featured in this paper as well.
That's true.
So who knows, if you cursed us or swore at us in one of the comments before, you actually might be featured in this paper.
And I mean, it's publicly available. We'll put a link. You can go search your handle and see. Because some funny handles came up.
Sure.
But yeah. Okay, so my one Shiok thing is this article I read recently about this company called Boom XB1. Have you heard of Boom XB1?
No.
So it's this, I think the company is called Boom, and what they are working on, right, is to bring back a supersonic commercial plane. Yeah, and the Boom Supersonic XB1 prototype is a commercial plane that is shaped like the Concorde, that maybe some listeners who are listening to us and below the age of like 21, right? You might not realize that up till 21 years ago, there was this type of aircraft called the Concorde. It's not a Boeing, it's not Airbus, it's the Concorde that used to fly faster than the speed of sound. And you could travel from New York to Europe in an hour and a half, I think. And it was insane. The plane looks crazy, but it was decommissioned because I think it was not commercially viable because the tickets were not cheap. But there is this new company, Boom, that recently completed a test flight that reached 0.95, Mach 0.95, which is 95% the speed of sound. And they are trying to bring back commercial supersonic planes.
Oh, wow.
Which, I mean, it's kind of cool because if you think about it, right, like, I think this article pointed out that it's one of the few times in recent times where we completely stopped a technology. Commercial supersonic flights. It just stopped. After the Concorde was decommissioned, there was nothing to replace it. But if you think about it, like, why is it not something that is worth aspiring towards? And I was like, hey, shit, there's a company trying to do this. They just completed 11 test flights. And Boom is named after the sonic boom that comes when you break the sound barrier.
They're creating a new plane, or they're using the Concorde again?
No, a new plane.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a new plane that kind of looks similar to the Concorde. It's not as big, I think. But it's not just a private plane also.
But it's kind of strange, isn't the problem the commercial viability and not so much the technology? That's the problem.
Yeah, but commercial viability, just like, how previously you couldn't imagine a commercially viable rocket that goes to space.
Sure.
But there are ways to pull it off.
Fuel efficiency.
Reusability and stuff like that. So now this company is trying to do that. And it's just one of those, you read new tech, and a lot of it's AI. This one is like, hey, shit, rarely do you read a company that's trying to do this.
Trying to push the physical boundaries
of commercial flight travel.
Not even physical. I mean, like physics, right? Like
in some way, physics, and also just making it commercially viable. Or maybe they just think there's a lot more rich people now who can afford it.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe now there are a lot more rich people who can afford to fly.
Maybe.
For whom saving an hour and a half or whatever is much more costly than what a $20,000 ticket costs.
True lah. But then it becomes a thing but if it's not going to benefit everyone, then why pursue the technology? Terrence, why?
No, I think you're right. It's like, why is it that last time, space travel was a thing, right? When the space race and all, and getting to the moon was a thing. versus then after that they just stopped like any kind of like traveling to the moon for I don't know, decades already, like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a political motivation to it, but other than that, like, is there any other reason, whether it's commercial or what, that we should continue pursuing these seemingly very esoteric pursuits, like going to Mars and stuff like that? There was, I think that I was saying that there was this Neil deGrasse Tyson was trying to debate that with Piers Morgan, whether it's futile to try to go to Mars and do what Elon Musk is saying we should do, like terraform Mars and all that, as opposed to stay on Earth and try and fix it, right? So is that maybe it's the same thing here, like sure, you can do it, you can get a supersonic jet, but is there something to, maybe create, maybe upgrade our current jets now such that they are more fuel efficient and they become even cheaper or something?
So
like that,
the reality of it, just from my little time in aviation, or even you don't even need to be in aviation, the two companies, Airbus and Boeing, right?
Yeah.
How much have they really innovated over the past 10, 20 years? Yeah, sure, maybe the windows now, you don't pull up the thing and down, and it's lighter, it's more bendable, wings and all that. But true innovation, right? How much? And that is what is very disappointing about aviation. That's kind of one of the reasons why I was like, I can't see myself staying in aviation, because it moves so slowly. Yes, there's a lot of safety regulations and all, but it was lacking that, like, hey, trying to push
move fast, break things.
I mean, when it comes to aviation, you don't want to move fast and break things. You want to move fast, you don't want to break things. So when I see something like this, I'm like, hey, shit, that's kind of cool. Because aviation, and not say Boeing and Airbus are also doing the best. They've had some safety concerns and it feels like it's a bit stagnant. So to me, something like this, I'm like, hey, shit, it's something cool in the field of aviation. I think there might be other things that it might bring to Airbus and Boeing. Even if it keeps them on their toes and realize, oh shit, there's going to be this new company that's doing this. Maybe they should consider R&D, putting R&D into this. So but, to me, I'm like,
But that's it again, right? Like, remember that submersible that tried to go to Titanic and all that?
Yeah.
And then ended up imploding. I can't remember, what something Gate, right? Is it Ocean Gate, I believe. That's the name of the company. In the end, the founder was, like, in the post-mortem and everything that people are talking about the thing, the founder was saying a lot of things like, like all these submersible companies, they're not innovating, they're just doing the same thing, there's been no improvement and all that. And, we're here to do something different and try something different and use carbon fiber shells and all these things. And then that's what the critics now are saying, that, see, that's the wrong approach for something like submersibles, is where the technology there has been shown to be safe, and there's a reason why it needs to have so much regulation and cannot have. You can't say, I just want to innovate and everyone else is doing it badly or inefficiently and I'm going to be more efficient and all that, right? There's certain things that you don't mess around with, like a titanium shell or whatnot, right? Maybe that's the case for flying also, like aviation.
But isn't that kind of a blanket statement to assume that just because the company is trying to innovate doesn't mean they are going the proper regulations? There are ways to do it unethically. There are ways to cut corners. But there are also ways to do it in a way that actually can be safe. So to me, I'm like, I think the same can be said about anyone who's trying to do something different. You can fuck things up. Even if you want to build like a new 4-door sedan or SUV, right? You can be a shit unethical company that could lead to loss of lives, or you could do it responsibly. So to me, that's the more about how you run the business, how you pursue innovation, rather than just, okay, why do you want to innovate? Because the incumbent works fine. Yeah.
I see.
So yeah.
Can. Yeah, it's good one-stroke thing.
Good one-stroke thing. See, Terence, I supported your one-stroke thing so wholeheartedly.
Of course, right? I mean, it's about Yala, but what will you say about that? That we never innovate?
But I mean, if anyone listening also has their own thoughts about whether or not we should pursue supersonic flight, please do share it on our subreddit. But yeah, I think that's been quite a hearty podcast. So as always, if you're new, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do share it with at least one other person. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, leave us a rating on Spotify, YouTube, comment. And if you want to work with us,
go to ministryoffunny.com or email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all soon.